The Pokemon anime goes to great lengths to remain synced with the release of the main series games. Ash always begins and ends his regional journeys when the generations do, and some of his individual exploits are meant to reference certain games in the generation. On occasion, however, we see the Pokemon Company use this show to promote not just the main series games, but also the spin-offs. Today, we're going to cover a number of those references. The first of these is Pokemon Snap. The game's protagonist, Todd Snap, makes his series debut in the episode Pokemon Paparazzi, where he first meets the gang when he's trying to take pictures of Ash's Pikachu, on the request of these two totally not suspicious individuals. The big thing with this episode is that Todd is insistent that he wants to take pictures of Pokemon in their natural habitat, as opposed to them posing for him. This parallels the main gameplay of Pokemon Snap, which is an on-rails adventure with preset courses where you take pictures of Pokemon in their natural habitat. The majority of the episode is spent with Todd trying to take pictures of Pikachu, who apparently is very camera shy. The big twist, if you even want to call it that, is when the elderly couple Todd met actually turns out to be Team Rocket, who wanted Todd to steal Pikachu. Of course, that's not what Todd does, and we find out that Meowth doesn't know how to read entire sentences.
The magazine says he's, the best at capturing Pokemon on film.
After this episode, Todd joins up with the group for two more. He's mostly in the background for one of them, only appearing a few times to take pictures. There is this pretty funny bit from that episode though.
Nurse Joy, you're doing great, yeah! All right, shoot away. I want 8x10 glossies and wallet sizes too.
Yeah, sure.
It's probably also worth mentioning that this is the episode where this meme comes from.
Here's the first question. Identify this Pokemon.
This is gonna be a breeze for me. It's a Voltorb.
Ah, how simple. It's a Pokeball without a doubt.
Obviously, it's an Electrode.
And the answer is a Jigglypuff seen from above.
In the second one, however, he plays a pretty pivotal role in busting a Pokemon breeding center that actually turned out to be a front for Team Rocket. Neither of these episodes touch on anything from Pokemon Snap besides the game's protagonist being in them and having him take a few pictures of Pokemon here and there. Between the three episodes, we don't ever see anything resembling the game's Safari-like gameplay setup. This isn't the last we see of Todd, however, as he appears in the Gold and Silver episode Moving Pictures, and sticks around for two more episodes after that. This time we have more of a through line with the episodes. The premise of these episodes is that Todd is looking to take a picture of the legendary Pokemon Articuno. It's still the same typical Pokemon anime shtick where our heroes help out some character of the day with some problem, usually defeating Team Rocket in the process. The first of these episodes sees Todd help an elderly couple out by taking a picture of them with a bunch of Sunflora. The second of these mostly relegates Todd to the background again, just having him take pictures throughout. Both episodes do tease Articuno just to remind the viewer of why Todd is traveling with Ash in the first place. In the end, Todd finally gets his Articuno picture, then decides to stay in the mountains to take more pictures of Pokemon. And that's the last we ever see of Todd Snap in the anime. Next, we're going to move over to the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. Due to taking place in a world that is completely distinct from the mainline games, the Mystery Dungeon series was depicted in the anime through their own special episodes. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Team Go-Getters Out the Gate is a loose adaptation of the part of a Red and Blue rescue team where the party fights Skarmory, with some changes that is. In this version, they try to save a Pikachu and Pichu from Skarmory instead of a Diglett. And Team Meanies is also part of the special, despite not showing up in the game until after this point. The other noteworthy thing about this episode is that both Whiscash and Snubbull are voiced by Roger Parsons, the guy who voices the narrator in the main anime.
As our heroes enjoy a delicious meal, they are completely unaware they are being closely watched by a mysterious stranger.
Now, Pichu, don't be sad. I'm certain that Alakazam and the other team members will save your older brother Pikachu.
Also, despite being a one-off special to promote the Mystery Dungeon games, it has a to be continued at the end of it, which implies that this was going to be a series, which it wasn't. The Explorers games got two anime specials, one for Time and Darkness and a separate one for Sky. The first of these two showcases the Labyrinth Cave mission, which is a special mission that is only accessible by Wonder Mail. It should be noted that this episode depicts the mission as it was in Explorers of Time and Darkness, as the client of the mission was changed from Shinx to Togetic in Sky on account of Shinx being made playable in that game. The episode also features elements that are central to the plot of the Explorers game, such as the Time Gear and the Dimensional Scream. It ends in the same manner as the previous one with a to be continued screen, except this time it actually did get a second episode. Either way though, this still wasn't a full-fledged series, which is something that my 10-year-old self definitely thought was going to be the case. The second of these was a bit of a strange way to advertise a game. The mouthful of a title that is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky Beyond Time and Darkness decided to showcase the second to last boss of the main story of the game and reveal some of the game's biggest story twists.
What are you guys doing?
Way to put spoilers in your 25-minute extended commercial, Pokemon. You just ruined the game for anyone who didn't play Explorers of Time or Darkness. A+ marketing right here, guys. Like, it would have been more appropriate to showcase the Sky Peak, you know, the only piece of actual new story content in the entire game. I know it's a post-game dungeon, but it's literally on the cover. The first of these specials also claims that mystery dungeons are the result of the abnormalities in time, which I'm pretty sure isn't a thing, given that they still occur in the post-game after that plotline resolves. And, you know, in the other 3 mystery dungeon games. The best part of these specials is definitely getting to hear orchestrated versions of the mystery dungeon music.
All right, I'm heading in.
Are we flying?
Even if they're just brief snippets. This was unfortunately the last full-length mystery dungeon special. For Gates to Infinity, we instead got a pair of animated shorts. Neither of these tell you too much about the story, just beyond vague references to plot terms. It's edited a lot more like a commercial than it is like an actual episode of television. Super Mystery Dungeon got no such treatment, but all 4 of the special episodes we talked about so far were uploaded for free to the official Pokemon YouTube channel in order to promote the game, which is why you have this border around all of the older episodes. Like, seriously, it's really annoying. I hate it. Could you have just uploaded it in its original quality with black bars on the side? Please. Returning to Ash's adventures, we've got a few specials for the Pokemon Ranger series as well. The Green Guardian is an episode of the Battle Frontier arc of the anime, and it features Solana, the female protagonist of the first Pokemon Ranger, who Brock falls for immediately, as he does for every female character in this show. Just like in the games, we see Solana temporarily enlist the help of wild Pokemon using her Capture Styler, and she also has her partner Pokemon Plusle, just like she does in the game. In this episode, Ash's Pikachu runs off and Solana agrees to help Ash find him while also looking for an injured Celebi. The presence of Celebi in this episode is a reference to one of the event missions that can be accessed from the Ranger Net in the first game. Of course, because this is the Pokemon anime we're talking about, no episode would be complete without Team Rocket attempting to steal Celebi before inevitably blasting off.
We're blasting off again!
Solana makes one more appearance in the 2-part Pokemon Ranger Deoxys Crisis, which is based off of yet another event mission. These episodes see the gang help Solana investigate a geomagnetic disturbance and its relation to the Pokemon Deoxys. A big thing that's important to this episode is that just like in the game, Deoxys can only be captured by Rangers in its normal form. This episode also served as the anime debut of Deoxys' speed form, which was introduced in the games through Pokemon Emerald, meaning it did not appear in the movie Destiny Deoxys. One last thing about this episode was that the American timetable for this episode was shifted so that this episode would air right around the time Pokemon Ranger released in the States, in case you needed any more convincing that these episodes are just glorified commercials. This is something we saw carried over to the anime episodes dedicated to the other 2 Ranger games, but we'll get to those in a second. First, we need to talk about one last piece of anime content related to the first game. The 9th Pokemon movie, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea, features a staple in the Ranger games, the Manaphy Egg. This is a Pokemon egg that is only obtainable in the main series through copies of Pokemon Ranger. It was unique in that transferring over an egg was limited to 1 per game cartridge, meaning there was a limited number of Manaphy eggs that could be legitimately obtained. The film doesn't contain any characters from the Ranger games, but instead features Jack Walker as the titular Pokemon Ranger. Unlike many Rangers, he isn't depicted as having a partner Pokemon in any media. His Capture Styler also doesn't follow the given design in the first Ranger game, bearing a similar color palette to the School Styler from Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Almia, although this game wouldn't come out until another year later. It would have been in development though when this movie premiered. Speaking of Shadows of Almia, this game made its anime cameo in the 2-parter Pokemon Ranger and the Kidnapped Riolu. This episode pulls from the extra mission in Shadows of Almia featuring a Riolu that learns the move Aura Sphere, a move it normally can't learn until it evolves. The basic plot of the episode is that a group of bad guys kidnap this Riolu from another group of bad guys, only to have Riolu escape. They then enlist the help of Hunter J, a recurring antagonist in the Diamond and Pearl anime, to track down Riolu. Assigned to rescue Riolu is Kellen, the protagonist from Shadows of Almia, who teams up with Ash and friends. Solana also makes an appearance in this episode, sporting the redesigned Ranger uniform. There are a number of things that this episode draws directly from Shadows of Almia, notably the number of Pokemon that Kellen enlists to do exactly what they're used for in the game. The most notable among these is when he captures a trio of Blastoise to put out a forest fire with Rain Dance, a pivotal moment early on in the game. It does show Kellen do something somewhat unique, as he is seen using a potion, something that Rangers are never shown doing anywhere else. There is one glaring inaccuracy with this episode, however, and that regards the name of Kellen's styler. You see, in the game, top Rangers use what's called a fine styler, which is worn on the wrist. This episode instead, well, I'll just let you hear for yourself.
And he's no ordinary Pokemon Ranger either. He's a Top Ranger.
A Top Ranger?
That's a Pokemon Ranger who's skilled enough to use a Vatanage styler.
The Vatanage styler is a thing, in case you were wondering, but it refers to a one-of-a-kind version of the fine styler that the player obtains at the end of the game. But the way Brock words it makes it sound like all top Rangers have one. Also, this has nothing to do with Pokemon Ranger, but this episode literally shows Ash using a Pokemon to slash a guy's tires.
All right, Staravia, slash their tires with Quick Attack! Staravia!
Yeah, that happened. Moving on from that, we have one last episode of the anime to reference a spin-off game directly. Pokemon Ranger Heatran Rescue is based on the special mission from Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs. This episode introduces us to Ben, the protagonist of that game, as he tries to rescue a Heatran and return it to a national park. Ben is depicted in this episode to be a bit of an extreme optimist, perhaps dangerously so.
Ben, but that's a lava pool!
The episode also shows off the new mechanic for the game, the Ranger Sign, which Ben uses twice to summon Feraligatr. We also see Ben lose his styler only for Team Rocket to get their hands on it, although they are unable to use it for reasons that Ben never really explains. The episode is also the first time the usage of Pokeballs is ever floated for Rangers, which Ben quickly shuts down.
I could catch it if I only had my styler.
So why don't you just catch Heatran with a Pokeball?
That's out of the question!
Huh?
A major part of my mission is to make sure Heatran's brought back to the national park completely untouched.
This episode wasn't it for Guardian Signs, however. We also saw a pair of shorts simply entitled Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs. Here we see a more direct adaptation of the events of the game. We see Ben meet Ukulele Pichu and do battle with the main villains of the game, the Pokemon Pinchers. We also see two legendary Pokemon from the game appear, namely Latios and Raikou, both of whom the player can summon using a Ranger Sign. Although Latios is only available if you play as Ben, with Latios serving the same role if you choose to play as Summer. Beyond that, there isn't much else to say. This is basically like the Gates to Infinity short, or the ones that were used for Black 2 and White 2, or ORAS. Oh, and if you're wondering about the quality of the footage, it's because there's no official way to watch this episode. So we're stuck with these low quality YouTube bootlegs. I know I said Guardian Signs was the last, but there is one final piece of media, although you really can't call it anime, so to speak. I think you know what I'm talking about.
I know, you can't understand me, but put down the stapler or I will electrocute you.
This movie came as a surprise to everyone, and thank God it did, because the floodgates have now been opened to actually good video game adaptations. This movie is unique in that it was developed externally from the Pokemon Company by an American studio. The film is adapted from the 3DS game by the same name, a game that, despite being released a year into the Switch's lifespan, still managed to sell enough units to convince Nintendo that it needed a sequel. This game was selected because both director Rob Letterman and the Pokemon Company wanted to focus on someone who wasn't Ash. According to Letterman, the Pokemon Company, they've already made many movies of Ash, and they came to Legendary with this idea of using a new character. So when I came on board, I was pitched this character of Detective Pikachu, and I fell in love with the story behind it. It's a really great story. It was something with a lot of heart, and it was just very unique. And because there's already been so much work done with Ash, for the first live action movie, I thought it was a really good idea to try something new and with a new character, but bake it into the universe of Pokemon. So it still follows all the rules and we get to see a lot of our favorite things. This live action adaptation of the series follows the same rough plot as the game, but makes several changes to key events. The R-Chemical is now extracted directly from Mewtwo rather than just collected from its cells. The film also makes no mention of it originally being planned as a miracle drug, giving it more of a malicious intent from the onset. Characters' roles are also altered and new characters are added who weren't in the game. The ending in the movie is far less ambiguous and confirms a number of things that the game implies, but doesn't outright confirm. Lastly, I just wanted to add, at no point prior to this was Mewtwo able to swap souls or merge people in Pokemon. It doesn't detract from the story, but having also watched the Manaphy movie for this video, all I have to say is back off, bucko, get your own powers. Anyways, that's all of the times Pokemon spin-offs are referenced in the anime and live action. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's a specific concept or game you'd like me to cover, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell, and all that jazz. Until next time, guys, peace.